Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Facebook Live on reactivity in dogs, how to prevent it and how to reduce it. For those of you who haven't been here before, my name is Laura Hunter. I am the owner of Drop the Leash Dog Training, and this is Celeste Gagnon, who teaches classes with me. So today we want to talk about, obviously, preventing leash reactivity, reducing it. It is an issue that has a huge impact on the reactive dogs themselves and their owners. Lots of stress, lots of anxiety. Everybody starts to dread going out into the world for walks. You start to give up activities in your life. A lot of owners feel like failures. They feel that they've caused it, and it damages the relationship between people and their dogs. So it's definitely something that we would like to prevent and resolve. The good news is that you can take steps to prevent leash reactivity from happening, especially if you've got a puppy or a young dog, but it can also apply to older dogs as well, because reactivity can pop up anytime in a dog's life. It is something that can be caused by the environment as well, so it can pop up. So just before we get into it, I just want to review the two causes of leash reactivity. One is frustration. We see more cases of frustrated reactive dogs than we do fearful dogs, and that might just be our situation, but it seems that frustration is the big cause. And, frustration is those pro-social dogs who just want to greet every dog and every human in the world and interact with the world, and are just terribly frustrated because they can't. And fearful dogs, of course, are afraid of people or afraid of other dogs. So the frustrated dogs are trying to decrease distance between themselves and the trigger, and the fearful dogs are trying to increase distance between themselves and the trigger. The easiest route, obviously, is just not to let it happen. Puppyhood is a great time to start. You can never start too early. The biggest issue is that puppy owners don't really have a thought. They're not thinking about leash reactivity when they get a new puppy. They're thinking about other things like ankle biting. That it's not something they should be thinking about at that point anyway. They should be thinking about socializing their dogs and, letting their dogs greet people and greet humans and dogs and be confident about that. So it's really difficult to envision an issue that you really have no experience of. Why would anybody think that those cute little puppies, the ones that we see on the field, Celeste, on Saturday morning, how would anybody ever think that one of those would ever act in an aggressive manner? It's just, it's just not in anybody's thought process at this point, except for us, because we had cute little puppies and they became reactive. So, unless you're on the other side of it, it's hard to think about it. It's not one of the more glamorous activities of puppyhood, teaching your dog not to be leash reactive, and nobody even knows how to do it anyway. The priority in that moment is me, other dogs, other people, and having a safe and confident puppy. So it is important that puppies and young dogs do meet other dogs and learn to be okay with that. But nobody thinks about how to do that, again, looking down the road. So a big part of the socialization process is also setting your puppies up to act appropriately and safely throughout their lives. So it's never too early to teach them about boundaries, and that access to resources isn't just something, it isn't just a given. They can't just take whatever they want when they want it. They need to check in with their owners and learn to ask in a polite way. And then from the human point of view, do you really want your puppy to be dragging you to other dogs when they're 80 pounds? So, we do need to think about how we are letting the puppies interact when they are puppies. You know, and we used to see that in the classes, is everybody was just, and I get it, everybody's so excited that their puppies are social that they would drag their owners through the door, and or they drag them through the gate in the field, and you know, end up in a big pile in the middle of the room. And everybody, of course, that looks wonderful. You know, even we get sucked into that. They're just so cute. But we do need to teach them that they do have to wait for permission, because what happens is, you know, puppies, the pro-social dog, all of a sudden can't access the other dogs, and you know, they want to play with the other dogs. All of a sudden the owners just say, I'm sorry, this isn't appropriate anymore, and they become frustrated. And in dogs, frustration looks like it does in human toddlers. Lots of screaming, pulling, possibly biting, definitely over threshold, and upset to the point where they can't think. So we do need to teach the puppies that there is more value in being socially appropriate. We need to teach them more value for alternative behaviors. Instead of pulling me to those other dogs and those other people, check in with me, turn back to me, wait for me to give you a release cue, and then you can go and meet the other puppies. You know, even puppies can learn self-control, and that they can politely ask and wait for permission. And in any good puppy program, any good puppy socialization program, those skills we need to teach. We need to teach puppy owners how to instill those skills in their dogs, for sure. Definitely puppies are able to learn those skills just as well as older dogs. In fact, I almost think it's easier to teach those skills to puppies than it is to the older dogs, you know, because the older dogs, you know, puppies, you have a blank slate. Older dogs, you know, even if they're still young dogs, have developed, you know, already that habit of just going, you know, but they still need interactions with other dogs that can develop those social skills, those play skills. So what's the answer? You know, because I'm going to talk in a minute about on-leash greetings, and we're not big fans of on-leash greetings. So I think that if puppies are going to interact, that they do need to be off-leash interactions. I think with young puppies, you can get away with on-leash greetings that are okay. Definitely, it's a great idea to put your puppies on long lines. My puppies were on long lines constantly throughout the first year of their life, and certainly, you know, it's an easier way for puppies to interact. If you're not going to let them play off leash, at least put them on long lines. So, you know, we have puppy socialization groups here on Saturday morning for our clients. A lot of good puppy programs are now running puppy social groups because people aren't getting as much of a chance to get out with COVID. So even if in the neighborhood, you've got a couple of puppies around in the neighborhood, organize a social class. I know that outside of our Saturday morning group, a lot of our puppy people are now organizing their own mini social group. So definitely they need to get out there and play. But at this point, I think off leash is the best way to do it. Yeah. Did you have anything you want to add to that, Celeste? No.
I think what I wanted to add was you're going to be talking about in a bit, so I'm going to wait.
Okay. Was it about on leash?
But it was more about how I mean, we're taught to introduce puppies to other dogs and people and whatnot, but the quality of that interaction is important too. And I mean, I know with Penny, before I knew all of this, I would bring her as a puppy to the school to pick the kids up at the end of the day, and so that she could see and be around other people. But of course, you bring a puppy to a school, you're going to have a swarm of kids circling that puppy, you know, and she handled it okay. But like at this point now, I know she was just flooded and just kind of took it. Yeah. But I mean, that's another thing. It's the dog needs to show appropriate social skills and ask almost like for not for permission, but to check in with you before you do
Yeah.
something. You also have to think about your puppy's perspective and maybe check your own ideas of what you want to do and force on your dog.
Yes. Yes, and it's what you just said is going to actually sort of be a part of on leash. I'm going to talk about on leash interactions, and when I think of on leash interactions, I always think of dog dog. But you just brought up a good point in that there's dog child as well.
Yeah.
And the same principles apply.
Yeah.
So let's talk about on leash greetings. And we hold a very strong bias in, I do for sure in my program, in that I prefer that nobody ever has any on-leash interaction, certainly between dogs and possibly between dogs and pits as well. So, you know, on-leash greetings, as I said, you could probably get away okay with those if you have young puppies, because I've seen them, you know, in our parking lot. I've seen them in the field, and the puppies don't really care. But on-leash greetings, if there are many that work out there, I haven't been there. I have not witnessed that. Most of the on-leash greetings that I have witnessed have gone horribly wrong, to the point where I ask people not to do it here anymore. And I do not let my dogs engage in on-leash greetings. There's nothing natural or normal about on-leash greetings for dogs. If dogs were going to greet each other and they were off-leash and they had choice, they would take the space that they need to take to feel comfortable. They would definitely not be nose to nose, which is rude at best and aggressive at worst in dog language. And they would circle around each other and find their own comfort zone. And if one dog wasn't happy to greet, they would just turn their head and walk on, and probably the other one would be fine with that. And their greetings often are short, you know, hi, nice to meet you, I'm moving on. All of that changes with on-leash greetings. And, you know, some of it has to do with the fact that people are not, they're not knowledgeable about dog body language. They're not knowledgeable about dog social interactions. So most leash interactions I see are nose to nose. You know, people walk their dogs right up to the other dog's face. So, you know, your dogs have no control. They have no space. They have no choice in the matter. They're staring at each other, which is really uncomfortable. They can't create distance. They can't say, sorry, I want to leave. So we force them into these situations, and then what do? We tighten that leash. And here I'll quote Michael Shikashio again, who says that's like pulling the trigger on the gun. Yeah. So, you know, we don't want our puppies, and you see the little puppies doing it all the time, but, you know, half of them are still working out what social skills are. And you can, as I said, you could probably get away with it on a puppy to puppy greeting basis. But I know that a lot of my puppy owners say, well, we're just, you know, we wanted to greet the older dog. He seemed like a pretty quiet, steady dog in the neighborhood. And I know that I have had 2 puppies bitten by older dogs in the last month or so, 2 puppies in the program. So at that point, you're not looking at a frustrated, a dog that's going to develop leash frustration as much as a dog that has just developed fear of other dogs. And so we both know that it's much harder to reduce and resolve leash reactivity based on fear than it is on frustration. So it's just, you know, we just want to be preventive. We want to be very, very careful. You know, supposedly if people, you know, do insist on their dogs meeting other dogs, there's a couple of guidelines. They should be able to do it on a loose leash, and you should be able to call your dog away after no more than 2 to 3 seconds. But there are very few people that I've seen out in the world that can do either of those. So it's just not a great idea. And the other thing with puppies to reduce leash frustration is, I think one of the bigger causes of leash frustration is 6-foot leashes, to be honest, because by the time your puppy wants to go and explore anything in the world, if they're on a 6-foot leash, they're already pulling, if they want to go sniff a tree. So we do recommend longer lines, at least 10 feet. I've got a number of clients who've said with their older dogs that 10 feet made a big difference as opposed to 6 feet in terms of reducing pulling and frustration. So, just be preventive. And, even if you don't have a puppy, even if you've got a younger dog, all of those same principles still hold. Let them check in before they go off to greet, be very wary about on-leash greetings, and because your dog can develop leash reactivity anytime in their lives, and frustration, and incidents can happen, and dogs can become fearful. I get a lot of people call me because their older dogs have become leash reactive because they had a bad experience and a non-leash greeting. So for all ages, just prevention is so much easier than resolution, for sure. So how do we resolve leash reactivity? Well, there are a lot of different methods out there, and there are a lot of different philosophies on how to do it. Again, we are biased. We do believe in humane positive reinforcement methods, and we do not believe in suppressing behavior. And I know there are a lot of programs out there that are telling people that it doesn't matter why your dog is leash reactive. They have a lot of interesting reasons for the reactivity, but their goal is to suppress the behavior. But it isn't about behavior, it's about an emotional reaction from your dog. So in the programs where they're talking about suppressing behavior, where the goal is to suppress behavior, it usually involves some sort of action or consequence that the dog considers aversive. The scientific definition of punishment is something that is either added or removed from the situation that causes the dog's behavior to go down. So the dog does the behavior less because it wants to avoid the consequences. All right. So at that point, you've got a dog who is going to be is either fearful or, well, I can't think of any other reason actually, who's fearful about what's going to happen if they don't stop the behavior. So, there's a couple of things that are wrong with suppressing behavior. It's usually short term. The dog will suppress the behavior, but because you're not addressing the underlying emotional issue of fear or frustration, it's going to get to the point where it can't take it any longer, and it just blows in some way. So, anytime you try and squish a behavior down, an emotional, and there's an emotional response under it, eventually I think that behavior is going to pop up in some other way. It's kind of like one of those little whack-a-mole games. Push it down here, it's going to pop up somewhere else. And it's because the behavior itself isn't the cause. The cause is emotional. I guess if I was going to put this in, I was trying to think of a human analogy for this earlier this morning, and I thought, say you were my mother. My mother used to be terrified of spiders. Every time she saw a spider in the house, she'd start screaming. Which I thought was a little traumatic, but not me to judge. So, say you were afraid of spiders, and every time you saw a spider, you screamed, and somebody would come in and like smack you upside the head and say, "Stop, be quiet, just hang in here, and everything will be fine." That is going to do absolutely nothing to help you get over your fear of spiders. In fact, it's only going to make you more stressed and more anxious, and probably more inclined to scream. So it's no different with dogs. The behaviors that they are showing us is, to me, a dog who's lunging or barking on the end of its leash is communicating to everybody around them that they are either frustrated and they want to get to something, or they are afraid, and because they can't get away themselves, they're trying to push the scary thing away. So behavior is communication. So if you try and suppress communication, your dog isn't going to feel good about that, because nobody's listening to it at that point. We're just trying to stop it from communicating. So it just, it's the dog's attempt. If the dog is fearful, it's the dog's attempt to try and save itself. You can't deny it. You can't ignore it. Nothing good is going to come out of that. So I think, you try and suppress the behavior, you're just going to add more stress, more fear, more anxiety to the whole situation, and nothing's going to resolve. However, as I said, in the short term, it might work. And I completely understand why people would be just happy and relieved to have a short-term solution.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Yeah.
And I think that if you're the one suppressing it, I mean, this would be just my opinion, my interpretation of this is that if you're the one suppressing it, eventually that it's going to come back to bite you in the butt relationship-wise with your dog. Like,
absolutely.
Not there.
Absolutely, because that's science too. If you're the one that produces, or increases the aversive emotional response, if you're the one that's making life difficult for your dog, it's just science that you're the one that's creating the negative situation. Your dog isn't going to have a positive emotional response to you either.
Right.
So you're right. It does. We see a lot of tough relationships with people and their reactive dogs, and it's understandable. Totally.
So the people who feel like by being the one suppressing emotions or taking charge in whatever way, becoming the alpha, as we hear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the whole alpha concept we know is kind of been debunked
totally
in multiple areas, but like, you're just thinking of the idea of leadership and care. Like, you wouldn't lead a person that way.
No.
Why would that work on your animal then too, who doesn't even speak the same language as you?
No, exactly. And our dogs are pretty much at our mercy everywhere in the world. And I would like to think that my dogs think that I'm the person who's going to look out for their welfare and keep them safe. And certainly trying to suppress those behaviors is not going to make your dog feel as though they're, as though you're a safe place or a caring place to be, for sure. So what should a program do instead? Well, as I said, positive, humane practices that change the dog's emotional response to the situation. And you want to teach your dog that they can offer you alternative acceptable behaviors in a positive way that works for you and your dog. It has to work for both of you. And I guess the biggest thing is don't blame your dog, because it's certainly not your dog's fault that they're doing this. And I know there's a big name trainer, which not a local trainer. This guy's internationally known because he's been kicked out of so many countries. And he says quite clearly, we just need to suppress the behavior because the dog's just being a jerk. So, there's a perfect example. It isn't the dog's fault. There's a lot of dogs out there that the fear is genetically based. I have one. Her leash reactivity is she's a fearful dog. She's been fearful since she was born. Her behaviors are not deliberate in any way. I know your dog really well. Her behaviors, dogs are not choosing to exhibit these behaviors because these are behaviors that bring their stress levels up. These are not dogs that go, I think I'll just lunge and bark and go off on, at the end of the leash. So you can't blame them. what you're trying to do is make your dog feel better. And if we can teach them socially acceptable alternative behaviors, we're going to build success and we're going to build confidence in them. And there's, a lot of leash reactivity comes from dogs who are anxious and who are not confident. And a good program should support the dog in making good choices and feeling more in control of the situation. I think choice is huge when we're working with reactive dogs. Actually, I think choice is huge in all dog training these days, because I was writing something up the other day about choice-based behaviors, and I started listing them, and I came up with every behavior that I've ever wanted my dogs to be able to offer me. If you want your dog, almost all dog training is choice-based. If you want your dog to walk, on a loose leash beside you, if you want them to come back to you, if you want them to stop barking and lunging, if you want them to stay in a spot even, or just even stay calm and don't bark, you've got two choices. You can either try and control them, three choices maybe. You can try and control them physically. You can try and punish them when they don't do the behavior, or you can build value for them by positively reinforcing them. You can build value for them actually choosing to offer you those behaviors. And I know which one. I know our choice, and I think most people out there are if you give them the options, I'm hoping most people will choose the positive reinforcement way of doing it. I don't see an in between. It's either positive reinforcement or it's something aversive. Like look at loose leash walking. Everybody wants their dogs to walk on a loose leash. So to me, you've got two alternatives. You can yank on the dog's neck until it stops pulling, just so it can get some relief from being yanked on, or you can build value through position feeding so that your dog actually wants to walk beside you. What are you going to choose? So like choice-based behaviors to me are the only way to go in dog training, but I think it's really, really important in dog reactivity, because ultimately what we hope for in our program is that our dogs choose to turn away from the trigger and focus back on us. And as I said, there's only two ways to do that. We can try and do it through physical control, or we can try and build value for the dog making that choice. And I know with my dog, anytime we can give her choices and situations, she feels like she's more in control of the situation, and she's an anxiety-ridden, really non-confident dog. So it's super important for her to have that control and that confidence. So, anything you want to add, Celeste? You guys okay over there?
My husband's being noisy. It's lunchtime. It's noisy.
Talking to a person who's hiding upstairs so we don't hear her dogs barking. I get it. Maybe we just talk about our program a little bit, and tell you specifically what we do. So we have three principles that are the foundations of on which we've built our program. Number one, people and dogs, because they're it's not just the dog in this program. I actually think it's more about the people learning than the dog. But people and dogs learn better through experiencing success. Well, that's a mouthful. Than they do through failure. We all learn better if we're successful, because then we're motivated to go on and keep doing what we're doing because it worked and we felt good about it. So we definitely need to learn through success. So to accomplish that, principle number two, you have to train for the situation, not in the situation. And I guess our third principle is that behavior change, as I was just saying, I find to be more effective and more long lasting if the learner has choice and can make decisions for themselves. So the ultimate goal in our program, as I said, is that our dogs eventually can choose to disengage from their trigger, whether it's the other dog or another person or whatever, and either focus back on us or make a deliberate choice to calmly walk away from the situation. And I don't care which of those two my dog would do, definitely for fearful dogs, sometimes leaving the situation, walking away is the better choice for them. They're might be in a situation where they're so overwhelmed they can't focus on us. But so, in Maddie's case, if she wants to walk away, I'm quite happy about that. So we had to figure out how we were going to offer a program that followed those three principles. And we discovered that the best way to do it was to go online. So our reactive dog program is online, and it's not online because of COVID. I was going down the online road for a while anyway. At this point, I'm totally convinced that online is the better way to go than the live programs that we used to teach. We have a lot of space in our facility. We have indoor space, we have outdoor space. Our indoor space is 8,000 square feet, but even in an 8,000 square foot space, we saw a lot of dogs who couldn't deal with the fact that there were other dogs present in that environment. And they were, if you've got a dog who's aware and anxious about other dogs being around, they're already over threshold. And being over threshold is not any kind of a state in which anybody can learn, whether it's a human or a dog. Nobody can learn successfully if they're worried, if they're anxious, if they're stressed, if they're over threshold. And I know we had dogs inside and outside when we did the live program, and you and I felt
and down the driveway.
Five different classes.
Yeah.
And then I still knew there were dogs inside. So this was definitely not a case of training for the situation. And, there's a people side of this too, which is, if you're going to be bringing your dog to a program where there are other reactive dogs, and I did it years ago, and it was a great program, but I had an extremely reactive dog. And by the time, we got out of the car, both of us were stressed out of our minds, worrying about what was going to happen in the program and like, am I going to upset the class? Is my dog going to go off and fail? And, will they create a scene? How do I keep them under threshold for an hour? That's a lot. That's pretty stressful. And your dog can't listen to you. You can't listen to your dog, and neither of you can listen to the instructor. So I know I'm painting what sounds like a really bleak picture, but we just found that it was not productive or efficient or useful for anybody.
Right.
If we want our people and our dogs to experience success, then they need to start in a safe, low distraction, no pressure environment, so they can experience success right away. Because success is everything. At every step, your dog in the process of getting to our final goal, at every step, our dog has to be feel both safe and successful. And so what we did was we took all the activities or exercises or skills, whatever you want to call it, that we use in the program, and we put them on 5-minute videos. Simple videos, took everything, broke it right down. And because we borrowed a lot of activities from our games program, they're easy. We want everybody to play them at home just as a fun game. And for a lot of people, I think that was the first time they actually had some fun working with their dogs. So it's not just about training skills, it's about rebuilding that relationship. And so the games are designed to build focus and attention on the handler. And your dog learns that you're fun, and there's value in paying attention to you. And if they make that decision, then they will be, certainly generously and positively reinforced. So the advantages to this are, first of all, most people aren't dog trainers. We're trying to make the activities as simple as possible, but they still need to master the skills. So if we make it super easy and we turn it into a game, then they're able to master those skills without having to practice and drill over and over again, without that pressure of thinking, oh my God, I have to, learn how to train my dog. So number one, it takes the pressure off everybody. And people need to, as I said, be able to practice them in a safe, natural environment, because those skills, as simple as they are, they have to be, the handlers, the owners have to be able to perform them fluidly and easily out there in the world at some point. So the only way you're going to be able to do that is to practice them in a non-pressure environment. So you practice and practice and practice. Well, I shouldn't say practice, practice, practice. That sounds like dog training. Let me phrase it. But we play. We play and we play and we play until the game is just second nature. And you and I know about that, because we play the games all the time. And since they're simple and they're fun, it's very easy for them to become second nature. It's not something people are struggling with, and we see that in our game students too. They get comfortable pretty quickly with them. And it's fun. We had to start in a place where learning would be fun, because for everybody, but especially people with reactive dogs, we have to put some fun back in their life. We're not going to send them out in the world stressed and anxious. Oh my God, we're going to be successful. I just want them to get over that hump of thinking everything was so incredibly hard. So do it at home, have fun with it. We tell everybody, play it for 2 minutes, just have a good time. Play it at the level your dog can be successful. And if they're not, just make it easier, no pressure. And so the other thing that too, which I didn't think about before, is that being able to play the games at home and practice the skills is an excellent enrichment activity. So on the days that you and your dog are possibly not ready to go out and tackle the world, and we know that everybody has those stressful days when they shouldn't be out in the world, you've got something that you can give your dog at home that's just as enriching as going back out into the war zone.
Yeah.
So although they're on, the advantage of online, is that as opposed to live, is that people have them 24/7. So I know, with the live classes, people used to go home, and I'm sure they were so stressed in class they weren't paying attention to us, and they go home and think, oh my God, what did I do? Whereas if we go, having gone this route, people have access to it as often as they watch. So, if you're not sure what you're doing, just watch the video again. If you're still not sure what you're doing, because it's online, we're no further away than your phone, your email, or your computer. If you've got a training issue, we can talk about it. We can talk about it on the phone. I can jump on a Zoom and watch what my students are doing. If people want to send us videos, we have a really simple way that they can get videos to us. And we've had a lot of students that sent us videos, and we love to watch videos. We can watch the videos and say, just tweak this or tweak that, or just try this, and make a big difference right there on the spot. So we're prepared to support and coach as much as is absolutely possible. So once everybody gets started, so what we do is we release a certain number of skills each week, because we don't want to overwhelm people. And there is, this program is a very progressive program in that we sort of add the layers step by step by step. So we release specific videos each week so that we can build on those with the next activities the following week. So once everybody's learned the skills, we then provide step-by-step strategies and plans to get you out the door. And I think that's where a lot of dog reactivity training goes south, because people try to take it out into the world too soon. And I think that happens. I think that's pretty common. And, you know, again, it's nobody's fault. People aren't dog trainers. You know, as a trainer, I was taught to, actually long before as a trainer, as a teacher of humans, I was taught to break skills down into small increments to be more successful. So while we want to get you out the door, there is absolutely no pressure on anybody, because it's an online program. Everybody works at their own pace. There's no pressure on anybody to go any further out that door than they're comfortable with, and we understand that. So you know, we actually try and hold people back a little bit, you know, and say, go to the front lawn, go to the backyard, then go 2 doors down the street this way and 2 doors down the street that way, and come on back. You know, the slower you go in the beginning, the more successful you're going to be in the long run. So we want to make sure that everybody takes their time and they're successful at every step. So for that portion of the program, we do Zoom lives every week. And in the Zoom lives, we all meet and we problem solve. We offer tools and strategies. We brainstorm, and we help everybody customize to where they and their dog are at in that week. And I think we also, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're also there to offer a lot of emotional support to our students, because we know how hard it is to, and we know there's good days and bad days. So it's really important in those Zoom lessons that we are able to make people feel better about the days that are not so good.
And I think that because the Zooms are the people, not the dogs, the
Yes.
other students or clients or handlers offer each other support too, because you realize you're really not alone in this.
Yes, absolutely. And I do think you're absolutely right. It does help to have the group there. We have some really good group discussions with our summer program, and you're right, it gives people a chance to share and other people a chance to say, oh yeah, been there, done that, you know. And the other thing is that people can come to the Zoom and say, hey, I got this week. My dog and I did this, and we feel really good about it. And I know that dogs aren't the only creatures on the planet that do learn from positive reinforcement. So I know that if we can celebrate those victories with our class, and we can say, hey, great job, fantastic, that everybody's going to be much more motivated to go out and do more and more of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess the question is, has the program been successful? Since we went online, we've put, I think, 20 students through the Reactive Dog program. And it's been a learning experience for us, for me as well, for you and I. Certainly, we've gotten really good feedback. I've got a number. I haven't talked to anybody whose dog is not less reactive. But we've had some very interesting comments I didn't expect. I've had more than a couple of people say, "Oh, the neighbors are really happy." We get compliments from our neighbors. Our neighbors are noticing our dogs and how much better they are, and they're telling us how great the dogs are. I think at least 4 or 5 people have said their neighbors are happier now too. And you know, everybody just seems. I think almost all of them have reduced their reactivity, but I think the people also reduce their stress, because I think pretty much all of our students are much happier to be out walking in the world, and they've all generally said that their walks are so much more enjoyable, which is, you know, a walk with your dog is something that should be the right of every dog and owner. So I think for me, that's the best thing to hear, is that everybody is able to walk their dogs. I'm still getting emails and comments from the first group we did in the summer, as well as our current group. So it's a good thing. The interesting thing is that, well, I had a lot of worries when we talked about going online. The first one was that, is it going to be effective because we're not there to coach in person? And so, being worried about that, I offered the optional add-on of live coaching here at our facility. We said we would do a small group and people could come in and work on their skills, and we would coach them in person. And not one of our students said that they needed it. They're all said they're quite happy with what they've accomplished with the online program. So I'm really happy to hear that, because it's always a bit of a worry, even though I'm pretty committed to live. It's always a bit of a worry: is everybody going to be able to learn, you know, even though you don't have an instructor standing there coaching, you know, in front of you? But it's the whole online thing has been a huge learning experience for me, not just in the reactive dog program, even in the puppy program. And I think since the end of May, we've had over 40 puppies go through our Good Pup online program. And again, you know, that was my first, these two were the first online programs. I thought, how am I going to communicate with everybody like on a computer screen? It was actually a little scary at the beginning. And how am I going to give everybody enough communication through a computer without obviously we don't coach people with their dogs in a Zoom class. There's no way I'm putting 10 people up on a computer screen and everybody's going to go through that type of coaching with their dog. I would be drinking something other than tea if we were doing that. But what I learned two things. And both of them convinced me that online, and I'm speaking for everybody out there who's offering online now. So I really do think it is the better way to go, because first of all, it's not about us teaching the dogs. It's about us teaching the owner. And I've learned that everybody is different. You still work with the person in front of you. And we have students that, because everybody is welcome to text, email me as often as they want. So we have people that check in several times a day with me when they first start coming to programs. I'm totally fine with that, because I know exactly where they're at. On the other hand, we had people in the reactive program that we didn't really hear from. And that worried me. But when I touched base with them, they said, no, the videos are great. We can completely learn everything we need to do from the videos, and we'll just watch the recorded Zooms. And I thought, okay, that's great, as long as you are, as long as you're benefiting from the program. So that was a learning experience, was that you just, everybody takes online, they do it in the way that works best for them. So it's easy for us to provide as much support as people need, but it's also, easy to check in, just make sure everybody's doing fine. It's just easy to do it in this format. And the other thing I realized was that, and you know this, Celeste, is, let's take the puppy program. I know we're talking about reactivity today, but in the puppy program, this was the same in the reactive program, both programs. You and I could not, when people come to class, they either have bouncing puppies or reactive dogs on the end of a leash. And there was so much that we wanted to explain to them, and we couldn't explain any of it because nobody could focus on us. So we would get through some exercises in class, and that was great. But I didn't really feel, like I had given them as much information as I needed to, and I didn't really feel like we knew our students that well. And the surprise for me was that in the Zooms, minus dogs, I'm actually able to explain dog training. I'm able to explain dog psychology and dog behavior to people. And people love it, because if you actually understand why your dog is doing what they're doing, it makes it so much easier, A, to live with, and B, to resolve it, because you actually know why you are following, the behavioral, strategies that we give you. So I know that all my people are much, much happier. Cool. It's okay. About that information in the Zooms. And look, yours started mine. We have a whole group. I'll wait till Celeste gets back, or not. Anyway, I'll talk to my people out there. So what we're finding is that I think that we are graduating more informed puppy owners for sure, who, as I said, understand why their dogs are doing what they're doing. And I know how important that is for puppy owners. You might not be able to stop your puppy from eating your ankles, but it really helps if you understand why they feel driven to do that. And I think we also became, I think we learned, that's the word, I think we became more connected with our students online. We had a lot more conversations with our students, and a lot more face-to-face of those conversations, and we were able to sit down and talk and problem solve with them. And I feel like I know my puppy students and my reactive students a lot better. So it's been an interesting situation. For instance, we had a puppy class on Monday night. I got a great puppy class. All my puppy classes are great, but I got a group on Monday night that we just started talking. We ended up on Zoom for 2 hours just talking about, and everybody was contributing to the conversation just about dog behavior and psychology and dog training. It was great. So I'm hoping that we're sending out, graduates that know more about their dogs instead of just teaching them, how to sit and lie down. So anyway, is there anything that you wanted to add, Celeste, or are you okay with all that?
No, it's good.
Okay. So I think we are starting a new leash reactivity, a new Walks at Work program, possibly next week or the week after. So if anybody's interested in, I just want to add that the Walks at Work program is about leash reactivity. But we've also had a number of people in the program whose dogs were reactive in the backyard and reactive in the house. So same principles apply. So it's not just limited to issues out on the end of the leash in the street. So if you have, a dog who's, who has problems in the backyard, who's got a lot of barking in the backyard, or a dog who's worried about people coming in the house, definitely we can help you, even within the Walks at Work program. And we will also be coming out, our Games to Train program has, sorry, I'm watching Gimli behind you, Celeste.
There's a delivery person outside.
Our Games to Train program is going to be going up online as well. Same format. We're going to do the video activities plus the Zoom lessons. And we're going to possibly run it as a bit of a hybrid program like we are with the puppy. So with the puppy program, a lot of it is online, but we are doing live puppy play groups where we teach about body language and consent tests. The games program will probably follow that format where most of it will be online, but we will offer some opportunities to come and practice some of the skills at our facility, because it's fenced and it's safe for people. people to practice there. So if anybody's interested either in, well, in any of them, puppy programs, we have space in puppy programs, a new leash reactivity program coming out, and a new game set training program coming out within probably by the end of October. So if you're interested, just send us an email or contact us on Facebook, and we'll be happy to talk to you about the program. Okay. So thanks, Celeste. And do thank Gimli for me. Look at him back there. Good boy. So please, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments and we'll try and get back to you. And thank you for listening, and everybody go and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.